What's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be a Q&A. So I popped a question box up on my Instagram stories asking for questions all around mindset and confidence and feeling in a good headspace and feeling good in yourself, I guess. I get a lot of questions around that and how I kind of got myself to a positive, happy headspace. But I realized I'd never actually made a video all about it. So what better way to do it than to answer all of your questions and get lots of juicy answers. So that's what this video is going to be about. I will pop all the questions up on the screen as I answer them. I've made a little shortlist on my phone, so I've got them all here ready to answer through, and I'll make sure that I pop the timestamps in the description box below as well. So if there are particular questions that you want to find and just hop straight to, then you definitely can. Of course, please remember, if you do enjoy this video, to hit that subscribe button down below and also that like button whilst you're there too, because it helps support my channel. Any requests or comments, pop them below as well, because I'm always looking for new ideas and new videos are coming your way every single Thursday at the moment. So before I dive in with the first question, I feel like I should probably say that a lot of these questions were triggered off the back of me sharing a progress update over on my Instagram, just showing where I'm currently at and how I'm currently feeling. I've definitely been through a huge physical and mental transformation, and if you've missed any of that journey, then hop back and watch some of the older videos or have a scroll through my Instagram, because I definitely share snippets of that pretty regularly. So if you're missing all of that context, then hop back on a few older videos first. But let's dive in with some questions. Okay, question number one. What motivated you to start working out and how did you manage to keep on going? So this is actually a really good question, and one of the reasons why I wanted to start with this one is because I think it helps kind of tee up this whole conversation. If you didn't know, I had been on an absolute whole mix of fads and quick fixes before I started what I would call this journey. Literally name a fad diet, skinny tea, quick fix, and I guarantee you that I tried it in some way, shape or form, and it literally got me nowhere. The only thing it made me do and feel was just negative and rubbish about my body. I was constantly in this cycle of training to burn calories and really obsessed over trying to eat as little as possible, restricting foods, labeling things as good and bad, doing juice cleanses, honestly just so much rubbish, which couldn't be further from what I preach and what I kind of live now. For me, it just reached a point where I realized from a mindset perspective that if I was always doing all of these things from a place of hatred, how was I ever going to fall in love with the way my body looked and the way it felt? And that mindset shift was the first thing that changed. That was kind of like the catalyst, which then made me think, hang on a minute then, if that's what I want to achieve, I need to change everything else I'm doing. I need to start training to feel good, to feel strong, learn how to do that. That's where I got into weight training and really focusing on progressive overload, feeling strong, and all of that incredible stuff. But also from a food and fuel perspective, stop thinking that less is more. Really spent that time to educate myself in terms of macros and just understanding energy and that energy balance, and that food is fuel and how much your body needs that. So that's kind of how that journey went right at the very beginning. How I've kind of kept on going is just that this for me is a lifestyle. It's not something where I had a specific end goal in mind. It is just a journey, it's a lifestyle, and it's one that I definitely really enjoy living, and that's what keeps me living it. Next question is, do you fall off your plan? And this kind of leads on from the last one. Honestly, no, because for me, this isn't a plan, okay? It's not a plan. Yes, I have a training plan that I follow, which is the only way I would use the word plan. But this is not a plan, it's just a lifestyle. It's one that I live and do every single day, and it makes me feel good. So if I do it, it makes me feel good. If for whatever reason I don't have time to make my session, or life just happens and things get a little bit crazy, I still try and prioritize me time and looking after myself in some way, shape or form. But I just take all the pressure off what that needs to look and feel like on a daily basis. So it doesn't have to be super rigid, and it doesn't have to look like 5 sessions smashed every single week or I failed. It just looks like showing up every day, giving the best that I can, and just moving my body, feeling good. We could definitely make this into a drinking game of how many times Emily says feeling good throughout this video. Okay, this is another similar one. How do I figure out when I've reached my goal? Do you keep setting new ones? So firstly, nobody else can tell you when you have reached your goals. They're your goals, and your goals should be based on what you want to achieve. I think it's really easy to get wrapped up in thinking so-and-so's, focusing on building loads of lean muscle, or this person's getting shredded, or this person's running a marathon, this person's doing a powerlifting competition. I need to be doing all of these crazy things. But actually, what do you want to do? What are your goals? What does that look like? For me, the long-term goal is to feel healthy, happy, and strong. That is my long-term goal. That's why I show up every single day. And then within that, I try and just break it down into some smaller goals. There's definitely some questions later on around goals and aesthetics and all of that kind of stuff. So just to touch on that quickly first, for me, I do sometimes have aesthetic-based goals, but they might just be one of a lot of other goals. I would say it's okay to have an aesthetic goal, but it's not okay for it to be your only goal. That's not what I would recommend. I'd focus more on feeling good, feeling strong, and all of those kind of aesthetic changes that happen as a result of that lifestyle are just a great bonus. So for me, micro goals could look like things like, achieving a great weight on my squat, or anything like that, getting a 5K run time, which I actually achieved earlier this year, or anything which is kind of more performance based is what I kind of root a lot of my little mini goals on. But just keep referring back to that bigger goal of how I'm feeling, how am I showing up for myself, how am I working towards this continued bigger goal and focus of feeling good, feeling strong inside and out. Okay, next question. How do you handle bad body image days? So firstly, I think that personally, from my experience, I think that it's normal to have bad body image days. It doesn't mean you don't love your body. It doesn't mean that you are unkind to yourself. It just, for me, means that you're human and that you are not always super happy and super positive all day, every day. You just have moods and fluctuations and hormones and things which can just change how you look and feel on certain days. I think for me personally, how I handle those days is I really try and take myself out of that headspace by focusing on how much my body can do. So taking it away from how bloated I might be or how negative I feel I look in the mirror, and focusing on doing something that makes me feel strong and powerful and reminds me that my body is so much more than what it looks like. So for me, that usually looks like really kicking my butt into gear and getting into the gym, doing a good session, feeling good, feeling strong, feeling powerful. And as soon as I start to remind myself of all of those things, I find it really helps me just snap out of that headspace. I also think as well that just letting yourself kind of feel those feels, not kind of adding to that kind of negativity by making yourself feel like you're a bad person. I absolutely love the expression that a bad mood or a bad day doesn't make you a bad person, and it is so, so true. So just trying to let yourself feel how you feel and just don't drag any other drama into that, and definitely don't sit there and perpetuate the situation by scrolling tons on Instagram, comparing yourself to other people online or other people in general, or just nitpicking yourself apart in the mirror. How do you deal with your cellulite? Do you want to change it? Okay, we need a whole video about this because seriously, every time I share a picture showing the back of my legs, I always get questions about my cellulite and, thank you so much for sharing it and I'm so glad you don't hide it. Number one, I cannot hide it, okay? It is definitely all over the back of my legs, particularly around my glutes and the top of my kind of hamstring area. I have always had cellulite, no matter how lean I've been. I've always had it, okay? It's never changed. It is something which is totally normal, is totally natural. Most women do have it in some way, shape, or form. Some have it more than others. It doesn't mean you're unfit or you're not strong or you're not healthy. it's nothing. It's literally just dimples in your skin, okay? And the more you can remind yourself of that, the more that you can feel empowered, that is just how your body looks, and it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything, okay? So to answer kind of the second part of that question, do I want to change it? I spent so many years and so much wasted money on creams, quick fixes, scrubs, weird brushes and stuff which would try and help eliminate it. And let me tell you, number one, it did nothing except make my bank balance smaller. And it also just made me feel even worse about it, because it made me feel like I needed to change it. And honestly, you don't. It's normal, it's natural. I have it. I'm sure some of you have it in different ways and shapes and forms. It's just part of me, and the more I roll with that and the more I just focus on, that's how my legs look. My legs can also squat my body weight, deadlift nearly double it, and all these incredible things, the less sorry I care about those little dimples. What's your number one tool to stop comparing yourself to others? So I think I've kind of touched on this on some of the other questions, but I think reminding yourself that you are you. Nobody else is like you. Nobody else has your unique genetic makeup and the way you look, the way you talk, the way you think. That is totally you. And the more you kind of lean into that and stop trying to change yourself to be like everybody else and just lean into your own strength and your own power, the more incredible, in my opinion. How to break the habit of relying on the scale for feeling better mentally. I beat myself up. So this is a really interesting one, because I think that the scale gets a lot of chatter, both in kind of the for using the scale and the against using the scale direction. For me personally, I just see it as a number. It's literally just the measurement of the weight of your body. It doesn't hold any, it shouldn't hold any emotional value or any power. It doesn't show you, you know, how strong you are, how anything else you are. It is just a number. And the more you can kind of focus on everything else from a progress perspective, so using progress pictures, how you're feeling on the inside, how your training is performing, so whether you're getting stronger or fitter. And if you want to use that as a metric alongside that and you feel comfortable with that, fine. If you don't feel comfortable and it just perpetuates a negative headspace cycle, honestly, I would just not use it whatsoever. That's what I recommend for me and every single client that I ever deal with. That is always what I would say. Next question, how did you change your mindset around food? How did you learn moderation? It's hard for me to not overindulge. Okay, so I think the food mindset thing and just mindset in general wasn't like an instant quick fix for me. It wasn't like suddenly a light switch went and I suddenly had everything figured out. I am the biggest believer that I think we are all still learning and developing and growing on a daily basis. And you just kind of accumulate that information and those changes and those habits and all of that stuff, and it just keeps building up to something bigger and better, I guess. I think for me personally, removing the labels around food from being good and bad and focusing on understanding that energy balance, and that food didn't have the power to be bad and it didn't have the power to be good. Understanding what my body actually needed in terms of fuel for the goals that I was working towards, and kind of getting an understanding of how to create that as a day and how to balance that out throughout the day, I think for me was the biggest turning point. The less that I focused on restricting myself, the more I managed to balance moderation. So the more I cut things out, basically, the more I wanted to binge and eat them to excess because I felt like I was never going to eat them again. But the more that I focused on just balance and moderation, bit of chalky every day, and just focusing on what feels good for me and doing that in a really chilled, balanced approach, the less I focused on eating them to excess, and the more I found moderation super easy, because I don't need to eat the entire chocolate drawer because I have freedom to have chocolate every single day, you know? So that's the answer to that one, I think. Okay, how to know when you need to rest versus when you can't be bothered to work out. This is a tricky one. So firstly, I think everybody should be taking 2 rest days a week. And that is just what I would recommend. I actually made a whole video about rest days and why they're important and what I do on mine in my last video. So definitely check back and watch that one after this one if you are interested in that in more detail. But basically, I think that it is a bit of a challenge to learn and to listen to yourself as to when you need that pep talk of just show up, go and get it done, you'll feel so good afterwards, and when your body is just saying, hun, I've not got it in me today, I need to rest. My heart and my soul is just not in this, and it's not gonna be worth it, and it's just, my body would be better used resting, and I would feel better for that than I would pushing through a workout. So I think learning that is about listening to your body and about being in tune with how you feel, respecting your body as well, respecting how you feel, and not just constantly thinking that, you know, you have to keep pushing through if you don't feel good or you don't feel just in the right headspace. The one expression that I always have is just show up. And that to me is what gets me through, because I show up every single workout and I show up for myself every single day in some way, shape or form. That won't always, of course, look like a workout. It might just look like a walk or, you know, just doing something for myself. But that mentality of just show up and see how you feel and see what happens, I guarantee you, once you get within 5 minutes of that workout, you'll be flying and you'll probably get through the rest of it, and you might even surprise yourself and have a really good session. The showing up is always the hardest part, but that for me is the biggest commitment. That's the biggest commitment to myself, is to show up, even if it's just for 5 minutes, even if it's for 50 minutes, whatever I can do that day, just showing up and giving it my all. And that kind of pep talk in my head always helps. Okay, this is kind of a follow-up question. It's not actually from the same person, but it's another question which is kind of similar. How do you have the motivation to show up when you're feeling a bit down or anxiety is up? So whenever I am anxious, stressed, busy, any of the above, I make showing up even more of a priority. Now that might sound really counterintuitive, because I feel like when we're super busy or super stressed, our knee-jerk reaction is to cut out, you know, our workouts, our walks, our relaxation, because we haven't got time. But actually, I would argue that is the time that you need it the most. That is the time where I always get the most out of my workouts in terms of what it makes me feel afterwards. And I'm the biggest believer in showing up for you before you show up for everyone else that day. For me, anxiety has been a humongous battle, and I've definitely chatted about this more in the past, but you know, movement always saves me. Some kind of movement always makes me feel good, even if it's just walking down the road, or it's, you know, a yoga flow, a weight training session, a stretch session, whatever it is. Just some kind of movement really grounds me in my body and just helps me get out of that headspace and that anxiety spiral. That's just my personal opinion, but yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make this the last question because I feel like this video is already super long. How do you stop obsessing over aesthetics versus what's best for your body? So I kind of touched on this earlier, but I think this question is super important to just address in general. I think that it's okay, like I said, to have an aesthetic goal. I just wouldn't make it your only goal. I think that it is very easy for that to become quite toxic in what it does for your headspace, and that you start to think that working out and fueling yourself and eating well is purely about how you're going to look at the end of it, and it is about so much more than that. So as much as I can focusing on feeling good, feeling strong, feeling healthy, and doing all the steps that you can to help make that happen on a daily basis, the more kind of any of those aesthetic changes will kind of follow, but also the less you'll care about them, because you'll be focused on how good you're feeling, how strong you're feeling. If that means you have an incredible defined set of shoulders because you're absolutely smashing it in your upper body sessions and you're fueling yourself really well, that's incredible. If it means your legs get even stronger, more powerful, that's incredible. I would focus on healthy, happy and strong, whatever that looks and feels like for you, and take the pressure off that being a certain look, and realize that that is going to look different for every single one of us, and it's just about what that looks like for you. I feel like that is such a positive note to end on. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If there are any other questions, please feel free to pop them down below. And like I said at the beginning of the video, any requests, hit them my way, because I'm always up for ideas about videos, because I love sharing stuff that you really want to watch. Make sure you come and say hey over on Instagram. There are tons of workouts over there at the moment, and just lots of fun stuff over on my stories as usual. But that is it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.